how will AI change everything about filmmaking? This video is mostly a response to the release of ChatGPT, Midjourney, OpenAI in general, and all the other softwares that just seem to be emerging every day. And you can really see the expanse of what we were able to do even a year ago through technology as independent filmmakers and low-budget filmmakers and media creators. And you can see this expanse just widening, and it seems like on a daily basis. So that's pretty exciting. So how does this apply to you as a creator in the media industry or film industry? Well, I'm going to talk about just a few areas. Some of this is speculation, but I'll be honest, a lot of it is anticipation, because it's somewhat inevitable that the tools that we see, such as Midjourney, which can create, or DALL-E, which can create images just from text, seemingly out of nothing. Of course, they're referencing a vast library of images, but they can seemingly create it out of nothing. But what does that mean for us? What other tools are going to begin to emerge, and how is that going to change the workflow and the creative process as a whole for us as filmmakers? So here are just some simple tools that I think are going to emerge very quickly. But you know, when you're looking for stock music, I mean, how many YouTube channels are advertising Music Bed and Epidemic Sound, and it just goes on and on, this list of all of these online music libraries. But if you've ever used one, you know how difficult it is to actually get to a song that matches to your video perfectly. And I think that's going to change. I think these sound libraries are going to become text-based, and we're going to describe the song that we want in the beats per minute that we want, and then it's going to bump out a couple results, and we will refine it. So let's say we need a powerful emotional song for, let's just say, an American president, and because we're doing a historical video on an American president, let's just say that. Well, you can type in patriotic orchestra, similar to JFK by John Williams, and 90 beats per minute, and then you press enter and it'll generate sample music for you to download and use. And of course, that means how it will be so much more malleable and customizable. So it's going to be interesting to see AI created music. I'm sure there are softwares already that are doing this, but the frequency of AI in every aspect of even how we search for things, how do we look up how to do a recipe? I mean, this is going to become more and more conversationally based, and it's important to just be open to that, I think, especially as media creators. Filmmaking is an art, so just going to Music Bed to have your movie scored probably isn't going to work as well for you. But hey, I mean, this is a time where things are changing, and to just immediately dismiss that, I think, is a little ridiculous, because it's inevitable that these tools are going to be incorporated even in the highest echelons of filmmaking. It's just going to happen. Another interesting way that I've already incorporated AI into my filmmaking is through ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT is such an incredible tool because you can have a conversation with it like you would with an employee. So for me, I've incorporated that into my writing because I'm taking things like dialogue or a title or an outline. And one example, and I'll show you it here, you can feed in to ChatGPT the opening scenes of your script. And as an outline, it can't take like full scripts yet, but I'm sure that will be coming. But you can upload, let's say, the first few scenes as a description, and then just say, hey, what do you think of this? And you could see here that the chat box provides some insight into what you're saying. I mean, it's generic, but it's enough to let you see it from a new perspective. One of the ways, though, that I find it beneficial is not to get feedback. I think that you want to get feedback from people because people have emotions, and filmmaking is about evoking emotions in people. So take it or leave it with getting feedback from ChatGPT. But what you can get from ChatGPT is a reshuffling of ideas, and you can ask it to introduce new ideas. I'm going to show you this right here. This is really interesting. So take the first few scenes that I just input into the computer, right? And these are the first few scenes of Taxi Driver, just as a description, a basic description of. I take that and I say, hey, can you change the lead character, Travis Bickle, into a girl? And press enter. Boom. You now have the outline for the opening of Taxi Driver, the first few scenes, from the perspective of a girl. A lot of writers have used gender swapping throughout their writing just to see, sometimes it's just a good way to see, does this story work apart from the gender of the character? Is this just a good character in general, regardless of whether they're male or female? And it's such a cool tool because in a matter of seconds, you can now read your outline and go, whoa, this is from a new perspective. And I just find that so valuable because if you wanted to switch it on your own, you'd have to sit there, even with these few scenes, you'd have to sit there for at least 10 to 15 minutes to rewrite that. I'm sorry. I know for me, at least, I would have to sit there and really think about it. Okay, how does this change this character? And sure, there are benefits to that kind of thought process, especially if you're writing a script that you want to film. But there are also benefits just getting an immediate result. And I'd say that is the number one thing about AI that I'm excited for, especially as someone that kind of thinks quickly and wants things quickly when I'm working on something, because I get these ideas and I go, that's a great idea, I want to try it. And then the computer stops me and it's lags, and now I have to deal with, I don't know how to do that. I need to look up on Google first how to do that tool. And instead, we're going to be able to just type into a text box, hey, I don't like the way you edited this scene. I don't like the way that you color graded this shot. And you can have a conversation with it and polish things. And that's going to go for dialogue, outlines, storylines, and it's going to be a great tool for us to reshuffle and rethink, what are our stories? What are we writing about? I love that tool because of the way that you can brainstorm. It's such a powerful brainstorming tool. So the third way that we will be able to incorporate AI into our filmmaking in the future is going to be through visual effects. Now, visual effects is already using AI to a certain extent. And if you watched Blender's recent conference that they had, the founder of Blender, he's just an amazing, inspirational person who really wanted to just create a tool that everyone could use freely, which we need more of. But that's a tangent. So the founder of Blender explained that his goal for Blender in the next 10 years is that it will all be text-based. So it will be a conversation with the software. Now, if that's not exciting, I don't know what is, because Blender's my favorite computer software, yet I know 1% of it, probably less than 1% of it. But what I love about it is how accessible it is and what it's able to do. But imagine if you could do so much more with it through text, through something that an 80-year-old could understand. Now it all becomes the great equalizer. And that's what I'm ultimately getting at. AI can potentially become the great equalizer of creatives and artists, because what it will do is create tools that the general person will be able to, just like with Midjourney, an average person could create something that someone may have had to take 5 to 10 years to learn how to paint by hand. And now the average person could type in, give me a picture of a dog with blues and magentas in a digital art style. And then you get a dog with blues and magentas in a digital art style. And that same painting, if someone wanted to do it from scratch, probably would have to take a couple years to even learn how to do that. But overall, I think that's just exciting with visual effects. That's just 3D and CGI. We haven't even gotten into compositing and rotoscoping and that whole world. Like rotoscoping is one of the most tedious and annoying processes ever. And I don't think there's a person on earth that enjoys it. Maybe there is, so I don't know, but I don't enjoy it. I know that. And if a software could paint out the person, and then, because rotoscoping always is wrong, I'm sure even an advanced AI would struggle with it. You could say, instead of having to go back to that frame and rework the rotoscope, you can instead say, hey, towards the middle, you missed the person's elbow. And the computer will know what an elbow is because it's been trained to understand. And that's how like Midjourney works. The computer understands what different images are, and that's why it's able to compile them into one. So you could say, hey, you missed the person's elbow when they jumped. and then it'll go jumping an elbow, and it'll find it and fix the rotoscope, and it'll be more through a conversation. That is what's going to be exciting. It'll be like talking to your own employee and saying, hey, I love your rotoscope work, but you did miss the person's elbow. So those are just 3 ways that AI is going to impact us down the road. The first one is just music, finding music for your projects. The second is writing, dialogue, story beats, story outlines, story premises. And the third is visual effects with rotoscoping and 3D modeling, etc. But what is this all leading to? And I understand how it's scary when you first look at it and go, wait, how am I going to keep my job? What is my value in the economy if computers continue to do more and more? And if the speed at which computers can do more and more is exponentially increasing. Because there is that model that there's this idea that eventually AI is just going to, like an exponential curve, just within a matter of moments, basically have all understanding. That's like a theory. Take it or leave it. But there is an exponential side to AI, I'd say, that even in the last year, it's like kind of, whoa, that's a little shocking. A similar thing happened when guns became more and more accessible. And I know it's like, wait, why am I bringing up guns in a story about art and creativity? But guns and nuclear bombs even, a tool with such power is scary at first, but similar to like mutual destruction with the nuclear bomb, the gun was seen, and I don't know who said this quote, but it was called the Great Equalizer. And the idea was basically a small man versus a big towering giant. They have equal power if both of them have a gun, because the gun can immediately kill either of them. It doesn't matter how strong you are. So that quote, I think, is directly linked to the power that AI has. AI is a great equalizer. And what do I mean by that? It's a great equalizer within the world of art. So let's see where this leads us. If the average person is currently able to create like professional level concept art through Midjourney, and that's still debatable, but let's say it like somewhat professional level where it'd be hard to distinguish which is which. That's currently, but let's give it a few years, even 2-3 years. Let's take a shot from the Avengers from 10 years ago, and you take all of those visual effects, right, with the city and the towers. What if, just like people can now have professional concept art, in a few years you're able to have professional studio level CGI through text, and you can say, hey, I want a building with the Hulk climbing it and smashing windows or whatever the hell he does. And then you can just type that in the box, press enter, and then there's your shot, and you can move the camera and control it through communication with the computer. Well, that world, I think, will come. I think it's going to take time. But what that's going to do is create a system of where Hollywood is going to have less and less power, I think, and they're going to be, the effects and the reliance on CGI will continue to go down because it's going to be more and more accessible to the average person. And I know this may sound like a stretch, but I do think that will occur. And basically, story will become more and more important, especially as someone who wants a career in film. Our reliance on telling a great story that emotionally connects to an audience member is going to become more and more in demand because more and more people are going to be able to use these tools. Just like when the DSLR came out and suddenly everyone could use bokeh. It was like, now we need people that not only can just create cinematic images because that's easy now. Now we need people who could tell good stories or make good YouTube videos. Like the quality of everything went up. So I do think that this is going to create an overall quality spike in storytelling, which I think is exciting.